Auntie. Are you okay?
Well done, Daniel. Great story. So tell me, where are they now? The pillars. How do I find them? You can tell me. Come on.
Hello, all. Welcome back to What's On Tonight, a podcast with elaborate, quirky, and unpredictable conversations about TV, movies, and more. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
Today we are covering episode 4 of HBO Max's Welcome to Derry, titled The Great Swirling Apparatus of Our Planet's Function.
I want to stop right there and say I 100% believe the great swirling apparatus of our planet's function was something that the show writers heard some really pretentious teacher say at some point in their life. And they were like, one day I'm going to work that shit into a script.
I hope you're right, because otherwise,
it makes no sense. It's just words.
Yeah. It's pretty much how I put sentences together with big words that I don't understand, but they sound good together, so it works.
Yeah, I think they were taking the piss out of some teacher somewhere. Anyway, go ahead.
Please note this is a spoiler-filled podcast. So if you haven't watched the episode yet and don't want to be spoiled, just come back and check us out after you finish watching. Before we get into the episode, I want to give a ginormous thank you to Mandy and Sam for holding down the fort for me last week. Y'all did a great job. That was an excellent episode. And I kind of watched last week's episode in a fog. For those that don't know, my father-in-law passed away and it was a rough week. So listening to y'all cover the episode really helped me see a lot of things that I just completely missed. So well done to you both.
Good.
Thank you so much. I really love and appreciate you both.
Oh, you're welcome. It wasn't the same without you. All right. So episode 4 was written by Helen Shang and directed by Andrew Bernstein.
So Mandy, would you like to tell us what this episode was about?
Well, the group takes the photos to Bowers, but when he looks at them, the spirits are nowhere to be seen. Called that shit.
You did?
Lily then turns to Ingrid, her friend the housekeeper at Juniper Hill, who advises her to stay close to her friends. Leroy takes Will fishing, where Will has a vision of his dad who tells him he'll burn too. Leroy rescues him and sees marks on Will, who warns him about something evil in Derry. With his friends, Will theorizes that this evil wants to increase their fear so they'll be more palatable when he inevitably devours them. Charlotte visits Hank to help him with his case. Hank confesses to having been with a married white woman that night. Marge tries to play a cruel prank on Lily, but has a vision in which her eyes become stalks like a snail. She mutilates one in fright before Lily intervenes. Lily is left looking guilty in front of her classmates. Will sees a clown watching him from his window, and when Leroy goes outside, he sees a red balloon identical to one he saw while fishing. Halloran enters the mind of Rose's nephew, Taniel, and discovers the entity's origin and how it gained more power as it killed, and how the natives imprisoned it in the place that is now Derry. Taniel shows Halloran the entity is below Nebolt House.
I got to say something funny. Well, I think it's funny before we get into the episode. So, listeners, I braved my fear of clowns and I watched both the 2017 and 2019 It movies. And they kept mentioning the Well House. And I thought that the Well House was an actual well somewhere. And it wasn't until watching this episode that I realized that the Nebolt house, it's on Nebolt Street, but it was the Wells house.
Oh, okay. Because quite honestly, I don't know what a standpipe is, and I know it has something vaguely to do with water. So I think in my mind, every time they were talking about the well house, I thought that's what they were talking about.
Okay, so we both had no clue.
I mean, it may be too, though, that when they were talking specifically about the spooky ass house, that they called it the well house, and my brain supplanted it with the Nebolt house. But when I did pick up that they were saying the well house, I thought they were talking about the standpipe.
Yeah, I thought there was a well under, and then I was like, oh my God, it's not the Nebolt house, it's Nebolt Street, and it's the Wells house.
The list of things we don't know or might fly over our head is probably pretty high.
Yeah. So for anyone else who was wondering, there you go. All right. So a lot to unpack here. And in an effort to avoid editing another 3-hour podcast, let's get into it. We start with the opening scene.
Well, hold on. Before we even do that, I want to say that this is the first week that I have noticed, and maybe they've been saying this every week, but they have a podcast. Why did they do this to us? Like before the show started this week, I see that it says listen along with the official podcast afterwards. Aren't we the official podcast?
Well, we should be the official podcast,
Did we forget
but
to tell them?
all HBO shows have an official podcast
I
that
did
come
not
with
know
them.
this.
So while we like to think we are the official Pit podcast, we are not. But I'm going to go ahead and say I think we're quite fabulous. So HBO, if you would like us to join your official podcast, let us know. We're available.
Honestly, like at first I was like, betrayal. But then I was like, no, that's cool. Like I'm always looking for new stuff to listen to. So I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about collaboration. It's not a zero-sum game. You can have more than one podcast that's very successful about the same subject.
Yeah. Everybody sees different things or has
Right.
different opinions on different
Yeah.
things. So the more the
Especially
merrier.
with this, because the thing that I'm really loving about this show is how collaborative people that are fans have to be for everybody to get all of the Easter eggs and the little things, the nuances that you might miss. I am really loving being in the Stephen King universe again.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I had forgotten one of the things that I used to love so much about reading Stephen King was how it is world building and how many little clues that you have in all of his books that lead back to other books. And the other thing that I have learned is that I am going to have to make my mother happy finally and break down and read The Stand because too much of this
Mandy.
depends on The Stand. I know I've never read it.
Oh, that is okay. So, quick story. That is what got me into Stephen King. I was,
Really? I
yes,
didn't know that.
telling my age here. Back when VCRs were a thing, and in order to record a TV show, you had to put the VCR in and hit record. So, my older brother asked me, I was going to be home one Saturday, and he was like, The Stand is coming on. Can you record it for me? So I sat there. I was like, I want to watch this. And I paused during the commercials so he didn't have to watch commercials. It would just keep going. And I was upset. I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. So I immediately went to the library and checked out the book and devoured the book. And that is what opened my eyes to the Stephen King genre. Real quick, though, I love me some Alexander Skarsgård, but do not bother watching the recent TV series that came out. It was garbage.
That was a great story. So I kind of regret that I'm going to have to say I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I've read The Stand at least 3 times. I've watched the original miniseries with the guy from Wings, and I actually started trying to watch the one with Alexander Skarsgård. It was terrible.
It was so bad.
I meant to say the Gunslinger books, The Dark Tower.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's my mom's favorite. And I love more of the horror Stephen King, and I'm not really a big sci-fi reader. So I tried to start reading it when I was a teenager, but I just couldn't really get into it. But I think in order to truly understand the cosmology of Maturin and the Deadlight, all that stuff, I'm going to have to break down and read it because I think it really explains a lot.
Same. I get my audiobooks from the public library, and I added the first one in that series because the same thing. It's when you're going through people's comments or reading things, it very often are they tying it to the Dark Tower. So we'll do that together.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll have our own little book club.
Yeah, just the two of us, just like now. So the kids go to cheap hours with the photos, and Mandy, you called it last week. The photos sadly did not show anything other than the clown, which they think is a statue. 2 things I really loved about this scene. One, Rich is absolutely freaking adorable. The way he introduces himself. He is 100% the avatar for Richie Tozier, like y'all talked about last week.
Yeah.
And secondly, I loved how they were a united front. Like, you know, Pennywise has done so much to try to separate these kids. but they are, all he's doing is bringing them closer together. And I really, really loved that. And Bowers is an asshole. So,
Yeah, that's one of my notes. I only have like 3 notes for that scene. One is this, or 2 notes, I'm sorry. One is this went exactly the way I thought. And the second one is can't wait for Clint Bowers to die.
yeah. Hope it's coming before this season ends. Oh, he's awful. And one thing that really broke my heart was when he threatens Lily with a one-way ticket back to the nut house and tells him to stay out of police business, and the look of despair on Ronnie's face. Like she is losing all hope that she can save her dad. That was very sad.
Yeah. The Bowers, just as an aside, they remind me of from Billy Madison, the O'Doyles. And there's an O'Doyle in like every grade that's just a redheaded shithead bully.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he has that line. Every time I see Clint Bowers, I think, O'Doyle, your whole family's going down.
And they do.
Yep. Can't wait.
So then we segue over to the gym and the kids are talking and Ronnie says, well, maybe it's like Dracula that you can't see the reflection, but Rich counters with the fact, but they did see them in the photos. So they're trying very hard to piece together what's going on.
To make logic out of a completely illogical situation, yeah.
Yes, and Lily recognizes that it's messing with them, and Will says that they should investigate the history of Derry to see if this happened before, and it made me laugh because I'm like, they are building Mike Hanlon's character hardcore here.
Yeah, it's just another way that history is just kind of rhyming for these kids, and that you see that this is just the same scenario that gets played out over and over and over again.
It was smart for them to say, well, Lily, didn't your mom grow up here? Can you ask her if she remembers anything? But it makes sense that Lily would be like, no, because I'm going to end up right back at Juniper Hill. Because if they haven't hammered it home in our head enough, Juniper Hill is a very dark place.
Well, and Lily's mom will. I mean,
that's exactly what she'll do.
Trusted. Yeah. She has shown over and over again that she will not protect her child.
No. And so she's like, Lily's like, wait a minute, I do know someone. So she plans to meet with Ingrid.
Ingrid. And more and more she's on screen, the more and more I believe that I was right to not trust that woman either.
I think she's Mrs. Kirsch. She's Pennywise, the original Pennywise's kid.
Yes. So Bob Gray is the human man who, you see in the beginning when they flash back to 1908, and you can see his caravan in the background there. Every iteration of it's discussed that he was a human man, that Pennywise adopted his persona, and that's how he likes to appear to children a lot. Bob Gray is obviously a sinister character, and that's kind of a little bit of mystery is like, how bad did Bob Gray go? Was he an evil man? And that's why Pennywise recognized that in him? Or did Pennywise he was a good dad, and then Pennywise took him over and manipulated him and became evil? Again, the little clown girl at the beginning of the last episode, I believe it was.
Yeah, she was in the flashback.
Heavy betting is that was her as a child, and that this is her now. And she keeps bringing up her father.
She does.
Yeah, and in that scene, when they were in the gym, they were talking about Dracula. If you look at the diner scene, she does not have a reflection.
She does. I saw somebody comment on that, and I went back and looked. You can see her reflection.
I'm going to Google that when we get off here, Barbara, because I went back and looked really hard,
too. Why did you just call me Barbara?
Because it's from a Vince Vaughn movie. Google it, Barbara. Oh, yeah, Four Christmases.
Oh, anyway. Yes.
I did not see her. I don't think that they meant for it to be a literal, she doesn't have a reflection, but I definitely think that that's what they were going. Like, I think they shot that scene purposefully so that it at least appears that she doesn't have a reflection for most of the scene, so that you plant that seed that there's something unnatural or sinister about her.
Oh, yeah. And it's when you go to look at it, you can see just like this, like you don't see her face, but you just see like the side back of her head. So you can see her, but it is not her face or anything like that.
I think we agree that it wasn't that it was a full on, she's obviously a human. So I don't think that it was a full on, we don't want you to think that we want you to think she's a spectral being. But I do think that they were trying to plant that seed of there's something not right about her.
Well, the way when Lily was asking her about the kids, and she's very blasé about the kids. She does remember something happening in the 30s, but it was the Depression. So kids just left home to ease the burden on their parents. She's very like,
She's Miss Toxic Positivity.
Yeah. And I'm glad that she is offering sage advice to Lily, but you do wonder something ain't right.
I think she's part of Pennywise's brigade. I don't think she's trustworthy at all.
We'll see. So then Rose goes to visit Charlotte, and I wrote here in my notes, this is the girlmance that I did not know I needed. I loved that they showed the headline in the paper all about Hank Grogan, and Rose comes in, and I got the impression that Rose, I think the more I see Rose and deal with Rose, I don't know that she has the shine per se, but I do think Rose has some type of intuition. The way she was asking Charlotte about what Leroy does, and like the way she kind of leaned in when Rose was like, or Charlotte was like, he doesn't tell me anything. It's all top secret, all classified or whatever. She was really like honed in, like Halloran gets when he's, just not in their head, but just reading them. So I think there's some weight to Sam's theory that Rose has some type of intuition.
Yeah, I believe that too. I think that was part of why she had a bit of a look to her when Charlotte initially came into Secondhand Rose. I think that's why she's pursuing this relationship, because I also think she sees that Charlotte has some level of intuition as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if the intuition is just as simple as you are immune to this whatever sickness is in Derry with the adults, that they turn a blind eye to all of the danger that is out there for these kids, or if it's something truly supernatural. But I definitely think that there is something more to her than just what meets the eye.
Yeah. I love the quote that Charlotte said to Rose about Leroy. He doesn't question orders. I question everything. That's the dance.
Yeah.
I'm going to say a lot more about Taylor Page as we get further into the episode, but I do want to just say this is going to be a Taylor Page appreciation podcast episode, because she, for me, was the highlight of this whole episode. She stole every single scene she was in, and I love that in the midst of all of this horror that is floating around Derry, but it brings me joy to see the writers showing a strong Black woman in the midst of racism era, not backing down from either her husband, the police, whatever. I love the way they're portraying this character, and I think Taylor Page is doing a phenomenal job bringing her to life.
She is. And I love her hair. I know that's not the most important thing, but I just think she has beautiful hair.
It's a great style.
It's adorable, and I wish I could pull it off. I liked the quote where she's asking Rose if there's anything, that she should know about Derry. And Rose, just being the queen of understatement, says, Derry's a beautiful place, but things do happen from time to time. You think, Rose?
Yeah.
You think? Run, they gonna kill you.
Oh my God, that's what went in my head was B Rabbit. Run, bitch, he gonna kill you.
Yes.
Oh my God, we are so insane.
We're so insane.
It's freaky.
Got the shine.
We got the shine.
Get out of
y'all.
my head, Becky.
We got the shine.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I do love those two together, though. I love them, and I love Ronnie and Lily. I hate that at least 2 of the 4 of them are going to be...
Probably going to be slaughtered by the end of this season.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm glad she shared her number with Charlotte. And so I hope we get more of them together before one or both of them is dead.
I think we will. I feel like there's going to be an Avengers Assemble moment coming up pretty soon.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I have not watched trailers beyond the trailer we got when they announced the air date. I have not watched any trailers because I don't want to be, you know how I am. I don't want to be spoiled.
I haven't seen any. I don't know if I guess maybe they've released them. I haven't been looking for them.
Yeah. If you wait till the end of the episode, you get us next week on.
Oh, okay. Because I just turn it off when the credits start. Oh, speaking of credits, did you notice? I didn't notice it, and I meant to go back and watch it before we started recording today, but I heard that the credits this time have an eerie grinding sound going on behind them.
No, because I stopped
Yeah.
watching it at that point.
No, the beginning credits. I need to go back and watch it and see if I can hear for it. Yeah, there's some chatter that like they're going to be slowly ratcheting up the eerie on that
Oh,
too. And by the way, it's incredibly popular. Like people on social media
I
are
told you it was the
loving it.
best part
It is
of the
amazing.
show. It's that
Yeah,
intro, and I still tip my hat to them because I watch it every time now, looking for something different.
me too, just to see because it would be just like them to pull something else different out. But the music, the animation, the all of it just the nostalgia of it with the sinister undertones, it's perfect.
It
Whoever the
makes
art director is genius.
it makes me really, really want them to get two more seasons just so
Yes.
we could see what the 1930s intro would look like and what the 1908 intro would
Yeah.
look like. Anyway, all right. So we go from Rose and Charlotte kicking it to we get the beginning of the black spot.
I can't be happy about it because I know what's coming.
I know, but it makes me happy because it's an Easter egg.
Yes.
It's such an important part of the story. So, especially from the book, because I ain't gonna lie, the 2000s movies, they weren't horrible, but I didn't think they were great because I just think it felt rushed.
Yeah, which is weird because I didn't feel that way about the 2 hour, the 4 hour miniseries.
Same, I didn't either. Like it broke down, like it broke it all down, and this just felt like they left out so much important stuff. So it didn't land for me. I stopped halfway through the second one because I was like, I can't even watch this anymore. But then I was like an hour later, I was like, okay, finish it, just finish it, so you'll know what's going on for this. So
Yeah. Before we move completely on from that, I want to say that I watched an interview with Kimberly Guerrero this week, and she was talking about something that I think we've kind of articulated too, that one of the great things about this show is that they are fleshing out certain aspects of the culture in Derry that she even pointed out that maybe even Stephen King wasn't equipped to do, because bringing in this nuance of the African American families that are there and the native families, they're not just props anymore. As Sam pointed out in the last episode, they're actually working. She is working with the writers and helping to develop the culture and the mythos of this tribe. I almost now like I can watch the newer movies with a better appreciation because I almost look at them as now as almost source material for Welcome to Derry. It's almost like this is the meat of the story that once it's all said and done, maybe even after it may even take all 3 seasons, I think it's going to complement those movies very, very well.
no, I agree with you. And which is why I wanted to stick with it. There's a lot from the book that they are pulling from,
Right.
which I'm very happy about. But if their focal point was to go backwards from the 2000s movies, I was like, okay, it's worth giving them a shot.
Yeah, we need to understand them.
And there's nothing better than immersing yourself in clowns to desensitize yourself from being afraid of clowns. All right, so back to the black spot. I loved that song choice of Ray Charles. What did I say?
Yeah.
When they're driving through, and Derry is beautiful.
It is, isn't it?
It makes me sad that so much horror is happening in that place because we got a lot of really pretty shots of Derry this week.
But doesn't that make you think about Tennessee? We talk about how this show is so much
That's
about the
true.
evil that is hidden within human beings. I think I thought of that because I had this conversation this week with someone that is not from here, and all they know is what they see on television. And I'm like, there is so much beauty, and they kind of dog it on Tennessee. And I was like, you're not wrong. We have a lot of problems, but you would never know it. Like, you can come here and be seduced by how beautiful it is, especially this time of year. There's a lot of really pretty parts of Tennessee that hide some ugly things.
Yeah, I always tell people when they're like, oh, yeah, I've always wanted to come see Tennessee. I'm like, start in East Tennessee, drive to Nashville and stop because West Tennessee is a dumpster.
It's very boring. Sorry, West Tennessee fans. It's just a really boring drive. There are parts of rural West Tennessee where some of my family is from that actually isn't bad. Anyway, moving on before we get banned by the state.
Yeah. So, anyone got rooms to rent? So General Shaw so kindly, I say that sarcastically, gives them a, decommissioned part of the military base. It looks like it was a storage facility at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the excitement of the boys, other than having to clean it up. The one part about this scene that really got me was that just brief look that Halloran gets on his face, like he senses something bad is going to
Bad.
happen, but he doesn't have a choice but to push forward with it because they've been given this place and now he's brought the boys here and everyone's so excited that they can have a place to call their own.
Yeah. And the shine isn't just complete clairvoyance or perfect clairvoyance where you can 100% accurately predict the future. It's more of a knowing in a sense.
Yeah, you get a feeling.
Yeah, you do sometimes get like a glimpse or a vision, but mostly what we know about it is that it's mostly a feeling. And I think in The Shining, Dick actually tells Danny Torrance that it's something along the lines of the future isn't completely, it's not definite. Things can change. And so I think what he's experiencing is cold wind of like something is not right here. Something I want to say about that though is that I'm starting to think that there's something to what Sam was talking about last week too about Dick Halloran and how he may be gay. Because I noticed that he brags a lot about women, but you don't see him with women, and it almost feels like overcompensating.
I 100% could see there being some kind of love. I feel like he romanticizes.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's lust.
Or just admiration.
Yeah, admiration of this, like when he makes to him about the meal at his house and all of that, is some type of attraction there for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So next segment I'm calling Duck and Cover, school time. Very quick here, but we get a turtle sighting. I thought of you when I saw Bert the turtle hiding in his shell.
Do you remember doing those drills?
Yeah, yes.
Just for people out there that are younger than us, I want you to know this is a real thing. Now, we didn't have the fun cartoons of your house blowing up or whatnot. And by the time we came along, they would stress that this is emergency preparedness drill. But it was really what these kids are doing. And you do wonder who in the world thought that telling kids if you hide under a desk, then the nuclear bombs are not going to get you.
Everything's going to be fine.
We believed it. Maybe that was it. It was just a way to try to pacify people. I really don't know what they were thinking, but all of that 100% accurate. And in the 50s and 60s, they genuinely did have these fun little commercials.
Do you know, side note, that if you were involved in a nuclear blast, the safest place, providing you could fix the lock, would be to get into an old refrigerator?
But then, counterpoint, you're stuck in an old refrigerator and everything is destroyed out there.
Look it up. It's very interesting.
Then you got to get out of the refrigerator and you're in a nuclear wasteland. So, frankly, I think you're better off.
I mean, you're not dead.
No, not yet. But everything else is. I think all things told, you're better just getting under the desk and kissing your butt goodbye.
Well, you know I love an apocalypse story, so I'm here for it. All right, so only other thing that really happens of note here is Lily's obviously in despair, and she exchanges a glance with Marge, who gives her a smile, which turns into a whole big thing later.
I wrote fucking Marge.
Fucking Marge. I feel like after this episode, she is going to be on a redemption tour.
Yeah, I think she's finally had enough and understands that there are things way more important than those fucking patty cakes and what they think of you.
So moving on to the next section, I'm calling Will's cemetery porn. And when Mandy saw this, she was like, what? And it just made me laugh that, you know how when, especially I had two brothers and mom would go in and clean the room and she'd find like the dirty magazine or the Sears catalog open to the bras and panties section. That's what this made me think of. But instead of dirty magazine, she finds his cemetery porn.
Pictures of Charlotte wasn't even playing. She was in there. She was going through his shit. But
right.
That also further makes me think, because I wrote a note here that says Charlotte has the shine. And I think her finding those was partially because of some kind of sixth sense that she has about her family and their safety. And then, of course, Will minimizes the whole thing. I mean, he tells her, but he doesn't really tell her.
But it was a sweet, sweet moment, though, the way
was,
he
really.
felt comfortable enough to break down and to be honest, because all of these, I mean, look at the contrast in Lily and her mom. She can't even go ask her mom, hey, did something weird happen
Oh, no. They have
a
a
long
great
time
family.
ago? But the Hanlon, Will is comfortable enough to open up to her about Ronnie and how he's concerned about her and her dad, and he just wanted to help. And
Yeah.
that piques Charlotte's interest, because what does Charlotte do? That's what she does, is she
Yeah.
wants to help people. So
Yeah.
I loved that mom-son moment.
I love that family, and I've seen some discourse online about people talking about how one of the reasons that the Hanlon family is so powerful is that they are not fractured like almost every other family that is in Derry. I believe that to a degree. I think that's part of what makes the Hanlon, like through the generations, their intelligence, their power, their real love of each other. But I would say that I don't know that they are 100% completely fully together. I did say that the Hanlons remind me of me and Eric, because the way that he talks about her being a crusader and he's more of a quit poking into other people's business, that's very much like me and my husband.
But I love the dinner, and it's obvious Leroy sees something's up with Will, and I loved how Charlotte played it up. Well, it's a girl, and then Will gets all embarrassed, and he's like, a kid is embarrassed when he wants to leave the table because he has homework to do. But what cracked me up is the look after Will leaves. He's like, so this girl, and is she, and he makes the gestures between the two of them, like basically, is she black? And I laughed so hard at this because my husband is white. And my mom, when I called her to just tell her I met this great guy, we were serious, she's like, oh, what's his name? And I said, it's Darren. And she's like, how does he spell it? And I was like, Deron. And she's like, oh, is he? And she's like leaning into it. I was like, no, Mom, he's white. And she's like, okay, wonderful. My mom is black. She married a white man, mixed marriages. Long in my family. It was just funny the way that reminded me of that moment with me and my mom. It was cute.
It is funny that you married a white man whose name is spelled Deron, and it's a Darren. That is not a normal or usual spelling for a white guy whose name is Darren.
Is Darren, right. Which leads us to the fishing trip from hell. Both Mandy and I, in our notes, titled this episode the same thing. I want to say, before we get into the nitty gritty of it, Will's face fishing is 100% me when Darren has taken me fishing.
So I thought that was funny too, but one of the things that I really loved about that scene is Charlotte has to do a lot of the emotional heavy lifting between Leroy and Will. I think is because he's a military guy and he's been gone a lot, but also just his personality is very cut and dried, and Will is more, sensitive and intellectual. Not that Leroy's not incredibly intelligent. He's just more of a man of action.
They're very different personalities.
So I loved that he didn't yell at him or get mad when he said he wanted to wrap it up and go home, because that he's only doing this because Charlotte told him this would be a fun thing for you to do and you guys can bond. But he was so patient and understanding that this wasn't necessarily what Will wanted to be doing, instead of just snapping off on him. But then that led me to thinking about what we know about 2017, 2019 iterations of it. Leroy is a lot harder on Mike than he is. He's a much more hardcore guy than he is with his own son right there. So, and also the story of Mike, I didn't realize this. I don't know how I missed this from the movies, is that Mike ends up becoming an alcoholic or a drug addict.
If I'm going to be honest, I hope they go with the Mike from the book, not the Mike from the movies, because he was my least favorite character.
Right.
Because everything he said was so over the top. They gave you no guidance how he got there, other than he saw his parents burn in a fire. But here's the thing. Apparently in the movies,
I said that wrong. Will is the one that ends up being, I think I said Mike. Will is the one that ended up being a drug addict.
I think that is not true. I don't think that's what really happens to Will. I do. If they're going to stick to the 2017's timeline, yes, they do die. His parents do die in a fire. But I think the way it was spun, that his parents, Will and his mom, were drug addicts, I think was Pennywise spinning it. I think so. I just don't see it.
I just really hope they retcon that. Like, it would make total sense that after losing apparently his wife and his child, and he's now having to raise his grandson, that Leroy would be more dark in that iteration and be harder on Mike than he was on Will.
Because he couldn't protect Will.
Right. But I just genuinely hope that they do somehow retcon that so that it doesn't end up that this sweet, intelligent, good soul ends up with that kind of a dark past.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think there's a better story there. And I think the book told the better side of the story.
Yes,
and
I much preferred. Yeah.
That's what I hope we get. So,
yeah.
But it was cute where their dad's giggling about the girlfriend. He's like, she's not my girlfriend. And he's like, the year is young, son. That was so sweet. And then Will catches his bite and is finally having some fun. And then, of course, Pennywise has to step in. So here,
before you move on to anything serious, I want to just make this point. If you see a koi fish swimming up to you in a regular asshole lake, that's not right. That's not where that's not where kois are supposed to be.
No.
There's nothing about that made any damn sense.
But it does if it's Pennywise.
Well, because it looks like Pennywise. It's red and yellow. At this point, anything that's orange and white, I don't care. If somebody hands you a creamsicle, that motherfucker is about to grow some eyes and probably a long tongue and stab you in the ear with it or something. Like,
right.
Don't trust orange and white. Get away from orange and white.
All right. So here's the question I have. 2 questions. So Will sees his dad under the water, pulls him under the water, and he's all burned up, which I thought was in reference to the black spot, but apparently it's from when he was captured in the plane crash during the Korean War. And then Leroy hears him, I guess, screaming underwater. I don't know how he heard him, but he runs back to save him. He doesn't see it itself, but he does see the marks on Will's arm and the red balloon. So here's my question. If he doesn't feel fear, why did he look so scared when running back and seeing something happening with Will? And how can he see that red balloon if he doesn't have fear?
So this is interesting. And one thing I want to say is that part of why I believe that poor Will does have a terrible future ahead of him is because I think that was foreshadowing that Will dies in a fire at some point. But hopefully not. Again, I'm with you. We'll take a petition to try to stop that from happening in any season, because that's just horrible to even contemplate about that sweet little boy. But I have thoughts about that, but I don't know that I have an answer, because on the one hand, my brain says, well, there is a difference between concern and fear. But is there, though?
He looked the part that afraid for his kid. And I'm like, if you don't have fear, this doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, I'm talking over you. It doesn't make sense.
No, I'm with you. Like, on the one hand, I think the argument would be he is concerned. Like, when I experience fear, especially for my kid, during the last election cycle, Ava, my daughter, was at a gas station, and these guys in this huge truck pulled up next to her. She had a Biden bumper sticker. And so they deliberately came over and intimidated her and blasted this song that was some stupid rap song about F Joe Biden. And she got annoyed because she's a 120 pound, at this point, 19-year-old girl. And this was 2 20-something dudes trying to intimidate her. So she flipped him a bird. And they ended up chasing her all the way home, good 3 miles from there. And she called us on the way, terrified. And my initial response to that wasn't terror. It was rage. And so my neighbors got to witness me standing in the front porch screaming with a baseball bat in my hand when these assholes drove by and revved up their stupid fucking engine. And then the fear came. But the basis of that rage is fear. So on the one hand, I think the argument would be that he was concerned, but that concern comes from a place of fear of something bad happening to your child. So I'm with you. At the end of the day, I don't really understand how he could be a good parent or a good spouse if he has no fear of anything.
Yeah.
I think the answer to how he can see the balloon is that there is this common thing with the adults that don't turn a blind eye to this bullshit. That they are, generally speaking, the people that are from marginalized communities that are well aware that there is a rot sometimes underneath seemingly happy environments. But again, how you can have that awareness without having fear, I don't know. I'm with you. It doesn't really make sense to me.
I'm very, very curious how that's going to play out.
I feel like Charlotte is definitely not going to make it. And I feel like one of the things they're going to explore is the difference between bravery and lack of fear, because you can't really be brave if you're not afraid. Bravery is the act of doing something even though you are afraid. So Mike Hanlon not being afraid, while it might help him to fight Pennywise, could also make him very blind to the danger, but he doesn't seem to be that blind. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go with this.
That part really confused me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
But I liked, it was a great scene showing the Pennywise. It was one of the better, I think, it sightings of the season, because it wasn't, I mean, his dad underwater didn't look great, but it wasn't, super gore or whatever. It was just
psychological horror for him.
Yeah, it was great.
Did you notice that the colors, when Leroy comes over and grabs Will and they're pulls him back up and he's kind of calmed down and they're looking towards the balloon, the colors are very hyperpigmented, like the credits, like the greens and the blues and everything that around them.
Oh, no, I missed
almost
that.
like, yeah, it was pretty cool. I noticed it both times that I watched it, that I think that was deliberate. It was almost like this cartoony, candy colored sky that was behind them. It was really cool.
All right, so next section I called Officer Dick Meets Charlotte. So Charlotte goes to see Bowers and she brings up the kids' concerns, and she's right that, hey, dude, if there's someone out there still after kids, then maybe you don't have the right person in jail. But I see it as Bowers is like, no, I got a black man who did lie to me, locked up, everybody's happy.
Yeah.
I'm not rocking the boat. He does not care. And that's
exactly it.
The comment that he made to her when she's trying to have a defense for Grogan is, Mrs. Hanlon, this isn't the South. He and his family have had regular contact with the public defender. And I just wrote here in my notes, I'm sure Tiny Derry's public defender is top notch, especially for a person of color.
Right.
And also, she is wearing that skirt suit.
Oh, she looks amazing. She's so beautiful. Like, I just love her look. I love her style. The costuming is for that character. The costuming in general is great, but the costuming for that character is just, she just is beautiful in everything she does.
All right. So then she gets an idea, because she's not family or his attorney, that Bowers says you can't talk to Hank. So she goes and looks up Luella Grogan in the phone book, which cracked me up, because I'll bet you so many people who might be listening to this podcast have no idea that phone books even existed. But that's what we used before we had numbers stored in our phone.
Before we all had a phone that we carried around with us everywhere. Yeah. I love that actress. I wrote a note here. Like, I don't know what it is about the actress that plays Luella. She's just so expressive. There's just something about her. I wrote on here, I would really like to interview this actress. Like, just, I don't know what it is. Or she doesn't have very long scenes, but she just, I don't know.
She says a lot in each scene without having to have a bunch of dialogue. We talked about that a lot in the pit. What we loved most about this show is that so many actors did so much without saying more than 5 words. And that's
really good character
That's what I
actors.
get from Luella.
Those are my favorite actors, or character actors, people that aren't necessarily on the screen to be strikingly beautiful, and they may not even be there for very long, but they command the scene that they're in. And there's just something about that woman's face and her delivery that just, to me, is very arresting, which is saying something, because Taylor Page is in that scene with her, and we've already established that it is very difficult to not be looking at Taylor Page when she is on screen. But I feel like that woman very much held her own in that scene and in every other scene that she's in.
Yeah. The thing that I got me most about this conversation wasn't their conversation, but it was Ronnie in the background.
Yeah, same.
And the look of hope that she got on her face when she was like, I want to help him. That's what I do, is I help people of color
Yeah.
who got coerced into false confessions or improperly present, whatever.
Right.
And the look of hope on Ronnie's face. But then next scene, Luella's like, it doesn't matter. He wasn't really home, and the only people that know are him and God. And then Ronnie's like, once again, that
Hope's
hope is
dashed.
snatched away from her.
Yeah.
So we head back to the black spot and they're getting it clean. The lyrics of the song, they did such a great job with music with the show. The lyrics of the song that was playing in the background, Can't Judge a Book by Looking at the Cover, I thought was fitting for the place that they're in with the black spot, what they turn it into. Don't judge a book by its cover. I think it's fitting for Derry and how people are seeing this beautiful town, but don't judge a book by its cover because there's some really serious evil underneath. And also about how people of color in this series are judged simply because of the color of their skin.
Yeah.
Rather than who they are and what's underneath. So I thought that was, I mean, I don't know if that was their intention, but that's what I got out of it. And I loved it.
No, I think it's a perfect song for Derry, but I also, to add another layer, because that's yet again, Dick Halloran is making some kind of, machismo joke about being a ladies' man. And that I felt like that song choice also played into that Dick Halloran isn't completely who he seems to be.
Okay. Either. Okay. I like it. So Dick has a vision of his grandmother, which I thought was a very powerful scene. Not so much the CGI winky fingers scary part about it, but what she says to him.
Yeah.
To keep that lid on tight. That was 100% a warning to get into other people's heads or let them in his, because when we get to the scene later on with him and Daniel, I'm going to make a point here about what I think happened during that vision. So that was powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
She seems to keep getting, I don't know if she's getting closer, if the voice in his head is getting louder. I don't know. There's something, there's more to just this, oh, Dick is having a scary vision. There's something more there. I can't quite wrap my head around it, but there's something
quite
there.
Honestly, if she is a protective spirit of his, then I hope she's getting closer, because Dick's about to need her real bad.
But that's what makes me wonder is like, is her getting louder or closer because he's about to be in big trouble, which I think is yes, based on what I think happens later on. So we'll get to that.
I hadn't noticed that she was getting closer, but I'll have to pay attention to that.
And I could be seeing things, but it felt like something about her is more intense this time, I guess, is a better way of saying it. And also, I thought it was interesting before she appears and he's fighting. It's like he's fighting it. He doesn't want whatever's coming to come into his head. He sees a drain and a door slam. And do you think that is in reference to what happens to Beverly later on?
I don't know about that. I mean, a couple of times they've used drains because it goes down into the sewer.
Well, I guess Lily saw the drain too.
Yeah. So I just generally took that as, that it leads down to the sewers. The slamming door, that's foreshadowing a little bit coming up.
Hanlon shows up and obviously wants more information on what's going on with Shaw, because Shaw hasn't reached out to them about doing anything. And Dick obviously does not want to talk about it. Yeah. And he warns him not to jump in the line of fire. And then Hanlon grabs Dick, and we get the same sound effect that we get when Dick is about to have a shine moment.
Yeah.
So was that Hanlon feeling that, or was that Leroy feeling that?
I think it's just a connection that they have, and that may be foreshadowing how they're going to eventually, because again, I feel like this is leading to an Avengers Assemble type of moment. How many of the Avengers are going to be left? I don't know, But I think perhaps one of the things that's going to happen as they try to work to get it back in its lair when the military seemingly lets all hell break loose is that his inability to feel fear and Dick's ability to have the shine are perhaps they're going to Wonder Twins this bitch.
Oh,
they're going to
okay.
get together somehow. That connection that you talked about, it may be that's what is fascinating about Hanlon to Dick Halloran.
Yeah. I just thought that was interesting. I liked that they used that sound effect because it added more to the moment.
Yeah.
And then basically that ends with Dick snapping at him and saying he doesn't know what's going on and he doesn't want to know. And I loved the line, I do what I'm told when I'm told, just like you. There's some good one-liners in this episode.
Yeah, man, Dick is heading for a fall. Like a lot of his illusions are going to be just literally blown to bits by the end of this. And
yeah,
I'm dreading that.
I am too, but I have hope knowing that he at least survives this.
Yeah, but I'm worried that a lot of bad things are going to be done possibly by him before we get to the end of this journey. It may be necessary because it's interesting how somebody with his ability still seems to have, and honestly, this is one of the things that I think that maybe those two characters that Dick sees in Leroy, Dick seems to still want a lot of validation from people in general.
He needs it. He's got an insecurity there. You can see it.
I don't think he's fully proud, even already. I don't think he's proud of the things that he is doing, the accommodations that he is making to get these special perks. But the need to be liked and to be part of a community or a group or whatever so far has outweighed that natural sense of caution that he has that this is all a very bad idea. Handler, Leroy, he just seems more like, even though he is in the military, he is still his own man. He seems to have an inner confidence about him, and maybe it's that lack of fear, I don't know, that Dick is missing. And so I think that's part of the attraction too.
Yeah.
There's still just an innate sense of self-possession that Leroy Hanlon has that Dick Halloran in this iteration does not have yet.
Yeah, it's the yin to his yang.
Yeah.
All right, so I know these are supposed to be the early losers club, but I cannot, after last week's episode and the camera falling multiple times, all I could think of was Scooby-Doo and their chase scenes. So this I will now be referring to them as the Scooby Gang. So they have their little secret club meeting, and here's what I wrote in my notes. Will is explaining what happened when he realizes it is like a mammal who uses fear to get kids to taste better.
Yeah.
Before he goes in for the kill. Yeah. And Rich's reaction, you're saying it wants to eat us? That's a horrible theory. Yeah. And then Lily saying, well, we don't know that Maddie's dead. And all I wrote here was, oh, Lily, Maddie is so dead.
I don't know. I feel like that's going to also, the fact that we haven't seen Maddie yet is going to have horrible repercussions. I think when we do see Maddie, it's going to be
like Georgie.
Yeah, or the Brower's gang, his friends, like in that scene in the original miniseries where they're all floating in the sewer, all decomposed and shit. I feel like it ain't gonna be pretty. One of the lines I like from that was, "Oh man, I hate being right."
Yeah, that was cute. That was very cute.
I'm gonna miss these guys when 2/3 of them get slaughtered.
I am too, but man, thanks for the memories. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So then we head on back to school, where I've referred to this section as Mother's Little Helpers. So Lily has this brilliant idea that to quell their fear, she is going to take, that all the kids are going to take Valiums that she stole from her mom. And when she is describing what the pills do, Richie's face, it made me laugh. He's about to immediately pop it in his mouth. Lily, without saying a word, just puts his hand down.
Like he's just ready now.
He's
to
like
not
ready.
Be scared shitless anymore.
Right. He's like, I want this.
Off topic, you do know when they call them mother's little helpers, like that is an actual thing that through the 50s and 60s
Yeah,
and even the early
they
70s,
sedated
they
wives.
sold it over the counter. My grandmother took mother's little helpers all the time. My mom tells me growing up.
Yeah, it was what they did for keep the women quiet, keep the women
Yeah.
folk quiet back in the day.
Keep them in the kitchen and barefoot and pregnant.
Another part I really thought was funny about this segment was when they're watching the video, not what was on the video because that was kind of horrifying, but it made me think back to junior high and high school when teachers at the start of class would roll in the big giant old
Oh,
TV with
so
the
exciting.
VCR and you're like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's video day." Best days
Yeah.
ever.
Oh, even before that, Becky, if we go back a little bit further, you and I definitely had school days before VCR, where it was just the
We
good
had
old
projectors.
projector.
Yeah. That was more elementary school. By the time I got into
Yeah.
junior high, we were on the VCRs.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like there were maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm a couple of years older than you too, but I feel like seventh grade at least, we had some projector movies. I know we had a VCR by the end because we watched, what was that movie with Annette Funicello where they back to the beach? I remember watching that about 900 times with remember this, I don't know if you've seen that one, but it's got Pee Wee Herman in it. He's on the surfboard doing meow, 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 papa, ooh, meow, meow, meow. Just me?
I've seen it, but I definitely don't remember.
Well, it brought back great memories for me. But let's get to this parasite thing. Brilliant. Loved it. May even be my favorite part of the movie or of the episode.
I want to know what writers and creators are smoking that they come up with these horrors because it was fascinating just from a
Scientific
scientific thing. I was like, wow, I didn't know that. And
it is
then
real.
to take that and use it to
As a metaphor,
cripple
yeah.
Marge, which we'll get to.
It was a perfect metaphor, though, because so for one thing, that is one of my phobias. Those kind of parasites, like that's the kind of thing that because I did know about that particular parasite, and that's one of the things that could keep me. That's something that I find much more horrifying than CGI bodies or clowns or skulls or any of that. Body horror freaks me out. I loved that they introduced that plot point and it's just such a brilliant metaphor for what Pennywise does. He is exactly that type of parasite that he gets inside and he uses the host to do all kinds of shitty, self destructive things.
Yep.
So brilliant foreshadowing.
And then Marge is horrified by the video, but it doesn't detract her
Doesn't stop her from being a dick.
Winky Fingers making up with Lily, which we find out later on is just a ruse to set her up for the patty
Marge,
cake.
you deserve everything that was coming to you.
But they're going to carry her. Another Stephen King
Oh, yeah.
reference there.
Yes. They full on tried to carry her. And Marge, you deserved it. You deserved it, Marge. You deserve worse, frankly.
Well, she's going to get hers. But I'd like to segue into my absolute favorite part of the episode, which I am calling Don't Start Nothing, Won't Be Nothing. And here's what I wrote at the start of my notes. And for those of you who watched in living color back in the 90s, will know exactly what I'm saying. Charlotte, exclamation point, 3 snaps in a Z formation.
Yeah. That was great. And just really happy for her character to feel like she's doing something again because I'm getting pissed off. It's accurate. And I know that it's a function of the plot that they're going somewhere with this, but I'm really starting to get pissed off with how Leroy is not understanding how stifled she is by being forced to stay home in the kitchen, cooking dinner and cleaning the house.
Hold that thought because we're going to get there.
Well, I was really happy for her. I felt her joy in being able to take her expertise and to do some good with it.
So she comes in back to the police station and Leroy's friend spots her and that comes back later. And she comes in and I have written in capital letters, preaches to another asshole cop with a letter from Luella granting her permission, and he tries to dismiss her and she cuts him down. And rather than just read what she says, I have the clip here, so I'm going to play it.
Yeah. You'll have to wait for the chief.
And when will he be in?
Hard to say.
That's just not good enough.
Listen, lady. I suggest that you take it on the arches before you find yourself in a cell right next to him.
My name's not Lady, it's Charlotte Hanlon. And that may not mean much to you right now, but it will when you see all the scary shit I can do with the telephone.
Excuse me?
No, I don't think I will. In fact, if you don't let me see Hank Grogan right now, by tomorrow morning I'll have MLK, JFK, RFK, and a whole bunch of other FKs breathing down your neck, along with a bus full of freedom riders after another from here to the turnpike, singing "We Shall Overcome" in the streets, to have to call the world's largest cow catcher to clear them.
Oh!
Now you gonna let me see them?
All
now?
the FKs are going to be up
Or
in
do
here.
I need to make a call?
I rewound that and watched that like 4 different times. It was
Yeah.
like, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the definition of a strong Black woman. That was chef's kiss.
Yeah, that was great.
I really liked the conversation that she had with Grogan, because first we discover that she found out that the public defender sucks. And
Weird.
here's what worries me, though. I'm scared for that public defender, because when Hank says a public defender didn't mention that, she's like, we'll worry about him later. I'm like, he's going down.
She's a professional. She's done this many times.
Right. And then, like, we can get you out of jail. And he looked so excited, like, I can get out of here. I don't have to go to Shawshank. And she's like, well, you're going to have to go for a few days. And I wrote, girl, nah, he ain't going to make it home.
Yeah, I don't like where this is going. But do you think that he was really with a white woman, that is the truth?
I do. I do think that's the truth of what's going on, because I think that woman is going to end up being Mrs. Bowers. And here's why.
Mrs. Bowers?
There is a reason.
Have we seen Mrs. Bowers?
No, but she exists. They have a child.
There's a Mr. Bowers.
We met Henry Bowers' dad who confronted Charlotte we think is his dad in the beginning episode. So there has to be a Mrs. Bowers. And there is a reason why the Bowers family ends up so freaking racist. I could be completely wrong, but I think that it is Mrs. Bowers that he's having an affair with. Could be Ingrid, friend from Juniper Hill, but I really, really think it's Bowers.
Well, Ingrid's a bit older than him, but
That doesn't mean...
No, it doesn't. Because there's a part of me that thinks that, I don't think she's good. I think she's full on already infected with whatever Pennywise does to people. So if it is her, I would think it would be only for nefarious reasons to lead him into danger. But there's also a part of me that still thinks that we don't, like we've mentioned this before, Becky and I try really hard not to talk about things that we're going to discuss in the podcast, but this is actually a callback to something I meant to talk about last episode. I think that part of the reason that I feel like that Hank is working with the resistance and trying to prepare for this feeding cycle is because when Ronnie had her freak out, when he ran into the room, he didn't ask any questions about what was going on. He didn't judge, nothing. He didn't, not one single question. No, it wasn't even just that he didn't believe her. He just didn't even ask. It was almost as if he knew that she had just experienced something horrifying. Also, that and the fact that we haven't seen any other real characters at this point, and we're halfway through, that could be this woman other than Ingrid. So my brain is still leaning towards that the white woman is a cover-up for
It could be.
him not wanting to endanger these people that he's working with to try to protect the town from Pennywise.
It could be. It's possible. But the way he's adamant about not saying, because I feel like if he was with a group of people, he could say, I was just out with friends. And these people would corroborate it.
But if he didn't want to draw attention to the fact that he knows these people, then he wouldn't want to. And that's one way to shut somebody up, like saying, because especially another black woman would understand why he couldn't admit what his alibi was. Definitely shut up anybody asking a lot of questions, especially a black woman.
I don't know. His face when he was talking about, if he says where he was, he says he won't say because he won't have to worry about Shawshank. They'll drag him out and hang him from the nearest tree. And he's true,
Right.
because that's exactly
Right.
what they would do, is lynch him.
Yeah.
And how this woman her husband would probably kill her. He wants a way out, but he needs help finding it because he cannot say where he really was. I think that the intensity in which and fear of him and adamant of him getting so angry about, don't you think I want to be out for my daughter? I'm not saying you're wrong, and it's a very good theory and it would make sense, and I would enjoy
I think
that
both work.
if that's where it comes. But yeah, I think
either one. I think we'll just have to wait and see. But, I'm leaning that way, but I could also absolutely see it being exactly what he said it was.
Yeah.
But if your point is right and that it's really Clint Bauer's wife that he's messing around with, that's gonna be another excellent reason, and a terrifying reason that he can't say where he was. Either way, I'm scared for Hank.
Yeah. Hank is not long for this world. I don't care. I don't see a way out for him at all. So, all right. Well, we're back at the base, and some guy comes in to tell Shaw that they couldn't find anything where Rose told them to stay away from. And if Shaw is James Remar. Kudos to you for making you this persona that you want to believe that Shaw is a good guy, but as the layers get peeled back, you realize he is not at all a good human being. And he's so worried about not getting to it before the cycle ends again that he tells the guy to go get Daniel, Rose's nephew, citing trespassing or whatever, when he wasn't trespassing at all. Again, abuse of a man in power,
right,
against the marginalized people.
That's when I lost all respect. I wanted to believe that there was a part of Shaw that maybe even that Rose had brought him back the same way that Mike brought back the Losers Club. But now I'm leaning towards he's just a terrible fucking human being.
Yeah, he's just being selfish. He just wants this great bin, and he will do whatever he has to do to get it.
I don't think in his mind he thinks it's selfish, though. I think he is one of those people, and it goes back to these layers of how evil infests people. And sometimes that evil gets in when you decide that you are perfectly fine abusing the human rights of a small number of people if you can convince yourself that it's for the greater good.
Well, he thinks the ends will justify the means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He thinks that he can hurt any number of people on the local level if at the end he's saving the world from nuclear war.
Right.
And it's stupid and naive, and it's evil. Part of the brilliance and the layers here is just how many different ways human beings can talk themselves into being real pieces of shit.
Yeah. Well, speaking of real pieces of shit, next section is Marge bugs out. So,
oh, Marge.
They're at lunch, and she's asking Lily about her new friends, and she's convincing. Had I not seen her look at Patty Cake during the movie, I would have probably believed that she was trying to get back in her good graces. And some of these kids look way too old for junior high school. I feel like that has to be junior high school and high school together. Or something.
That's what I was saying about the guy that had the smoke bomb at the beginning. He looked like a grown man.
Well, this guy didn't look like a grown man, but he definitely did not look like he was the guys that I went to junior high school with.
Hey, before we go too much down into the describing this scene, I want you to know that I only have 3 notes for this scene. The first one is fuck Marge. The second one is Marge in all capital letters with an exclamation point. And then, and I know you don't like this phrase, so apologies in advance, all in capitals, God damn it, Marge. That's all I had to say about this scene.
Here's what I like. The obvious is that, Marge is insecure about her thick glasses, her wardrobe appearance. She's very, very concerned about the way she looks. And Pennywise used that to make her gouge her own eye out. But what I liked was the shooting, the way they shot it and the direction. Like when she and kudos to this actress, and I should have written her name down, and my apologies that I did not, but she sold it. She sold, because I mean, in all honesty, you know, I hate eye horror.
Ugh, me too.
But once those things came out, I was like, okay, this is just more bad. Well, CGI. It didn't really affect me once they came out. But when she gets into the shop room, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. And the way she's wrestling with the chisel, but then when she goes to the bandsaw and the shot of her grabbing hold of the side of the bandsaw and then her feet slipping as she's trying to get her eyes there, I thought like she was going to lose her head. Like they really amped that up.
I don't know.
It was going to be a lot worse. And then, you know, of course, Lily comes in and saves her, but she gets caught in a compromising position. But then they did a phenomenal job, once again, segueing from something absolutely gross, like in the first episode, Dick throwing up into the mashed potatoes, to the Hanlon house where she's chopping tomatoes. Well done.
Was so disgusting. That was maybe the most horrifying part, was that segue into the tomatoes being smushed up. Before we completely move into that next thing, though, I do want to echo what you said about this actress. She is great. The kids in this show, so well cast. All of them are just phenomenal actors. Hate Marge as much as you do, you can't fully hate Marge, and it's because
she's a child.
She imbues her with
Matilda
like this
Lawler.
She's great. Matilda,
well done. Please come on this show and talk to us. I tried to message her to see if she wanted to interview, but I'm guessing because she's young, you can't message her. I would love to. I'd love to get every single one of these. I'd really love to get the cinematographer on here too. But anyway, back to your point. Yeah, they're selling it. They're doing such a great job of giving
I just want to give her flowers, because she really is walking this fine line between being a terrible friend and having a core of like little kid sweetness that you can't fully hate her.
You can't help but, having been her age and had our own share of insecurities, you can't help but empathize with her at the same time. It's so well done.
Yeah.
So then we head over to the Hanlon house, where I write here cracks in the Hanlon Foundation, which we can go back to what you were talking about before. Leroy comes in hot, wanting to know why she was at the police station. And I loved her sassing back at him about the quote unquote top secret stuff. And he tells her he wants her to not be stirring up trouble. And she claps back with, well, there's going to be trouble anywhere we go. That's the country you swore to defend. I'm just making it worth defending. And I wrote
that down too
in bold letters, preach, Charlotte, preach.
Yes, good for her. He needed to hear that shit. I wish he would listen.
I know. And then when apparently she got arrested in Louisiana, and he begs her to stop. And I loved her coy response with that little wifey smile that the 60s ladies mastered, that says, you don't have to worry about me.
Like, don't ask, don't tell, basically. Like, don't worry about what I'm doing. Yeah, I'll just be over here. Don't worry, I'll be over here cooking your meals and cleaning your house. And
I'll be quiet. But when you leave, I'll be talking again.
I'm so mad at him, though. I mean, look, as a whitey McWhite lady, it is not my job, I know, to be judging somebody that would be in this situation. And we've talked about that before, that like some of like my Dinner for Her podcast with some of the guests that we've talked about, Black Americans who have had to face difficult choices. And I don't know anything about that. But I can't help but get very frustrated with Leroy, because his wife is so brave and dynamic, and she's being stifled. You know, she's somebody who has deep compassion and just a courageous heart, and he wants her to just put an apron on and sit down and shut up and don't make waves.
Yeah.
And it just makes me not like Leroy very much sometimes.
I don't not like him. I don't like the way he doesn't let her be her, but I do think he's a great father. I do think he's a good husband. I just think he's so afraid.
No, it's very explicitly this.
They obviously left to get away from the image that her activism brought. I don't think he thinks she's wrong. for doing what she's doing. But I
No.
think he's afraid that it will hinder his ability to provide
Well,
for
and
the
then
family.
we go back to fear. I thought Leroy can't have fear.
Well, let's jump into the, if we can, where Will is screaming because he sees Pennywise out of his telescope, and he comes running in there scared that something has happened to his kid, and then he goes outside and he sees that damn red balloon. How?
Yeah.
It's not sinking together for me, man. They lost me with that part of it in this episode.
Right, because that's what I'm saying. Like, as a white lady, I don't feel like I have the right to judge. I feel like it's very realistic to think, I mean, even not being in that extreme pressure cooker of being, one of the very few minority people in that city and in the higher up in the military. I don't know anything about that, but just like with me and Eric, I told you, like, they kind of remind me of me and Eric, and probably you and Darren too, in a certain way, because our husbands are both very don't want to make waves kind of people. They're brave, they're good providers, they love us, and if they had to protect us,
they would always do the right thing.
Okay, but they're not going to go out of their way to try to make waves socially. It's just not in their nature.
Who they are.
Right. And I can understand that about that. And I can also even further appreciate that beyond just that natural inclination, the fear of what could happen to your family that I can't ever know, but what we keep getting back to, he's not supposed to have fear. So what's his problem?
Yeah, doesn't track with the story that they're spinning, that he is the key to getting Pennywise because he does not have the ability to feel fear, yet
he seems to fear several things.
He's showed a lot of fear in this episode.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe there will be some clarity around that at some point.
I hope so, because I don't want this to be what tanks everything. But in that part, those moments with him showing nothing but fear took me out of it.
Yeah, I need some clarification of, if he's not afraid, what is motivating him then?
Yeah.
Fear is just a tool. It tell you that there's something lurking around that is dangerous, and
be careful.
You need to protect yourself. Right. It's not objectively good or bad. The way that we experience it leads to good or bad results, but fear in and of itself is not a bad thing. And he seems, again, to be very motivated by his fear that something could happen to his career, that his wife could get in trouble, that somebody might harm his child. So if that is not what is motivating this character, then I need more clarification.
Same. I hope we get it. I hope they deliver. I'm going to give them grace and hope that they get us there.
Yeah, I'm on for the ride, and I trust them. I mean, there's been so many times that I've been blown away by the storytelling. I'm just going to trust that we got 4 more episodes and we're going to get some more clarification and insight into what's going on in Leroy's head.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, when he looked at her and said, "You see what you did? Oh my God. Oh my God." Oh, I was almost done with him in that moment. He should be afraid. If I was Charlotte, he'd been afraid.
Fuck Pennywise.
Yeah.
All right, well, that takes us to our final scenes of the episode, which I have titled Mindfuckery. I'm not going to go into, everyone who watched it knows the specifics of what happened. I kind of want to just talk about our thoughts on what happened, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
First off, the tribe I loved seeing a tribe full of women.
Yeah.
I thought that with the council, all of it, but it was just nice to see that being full of women. And then I just want to talk about how, of course, outsiders come, don't heed the warnings, and end up causing more harm than good to land that didn't even belong to them in the first place. That sounds familiar to anyone.
Well, and this is one of the places I think this is one of those examples of how Kimberly talked about how having actual Native people guiding this storyline has really come into play, because historically, one of the things that they were in many ways matrilineal. A lot of the tribes in the Northeast it wasn't like a full matriarchy. but they had far more power. They had far more voice as far as governance and how the tribe was going to run and what happened in the household. And they were respected far more than the average European woman
I
at the
liked
same
it.
time. Yeah.
I really, really
Yeah.
like that side
Yeah.
of it. But what I want to talk about, and I know you want to talk about the doors, but I want to talk about creepy thing was when Halloran's in his mind and Rose is talking to Daniel after he finishes the story, and Rose, like, her eye freezes and then the rest of her freezes. That was
I want
probably
to know
the
how they did
creepy.
that.
I don't know, but that was genius.
If that was CGI, that's the best CGI that they've had in this entire series.
But I feel like when he pops up behind her clapping, he's telling him, "You did a good job." And he's got that menacing smile. And he says, "You can tell me." That was Pennywise.
Yeah.
Pennywise, because grandma said, keep the lid on tight.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And remember in the first episode or last episode, this last episode, where it wasn't supposed to see us, that, and you and Sam did a great job talking about psychic abilities and how that could make, it not only can allow you into someone else, but it can allow someone else into you. I think that was Pennywise.
Yeah, for sure.
In Halloran in that moment.
I didn't initially. This iteration of Dick, this young version of Dick, can be kind of cocky and can be a little bit cruel. I mean, it's the same guy that sat and watched Leroy get beat in his room. So at first I thought, nah, that's him. He just is just being a tough guy. But I went back and I watched it, and I 100% agree. I think it was Pennywise.
Yeah.
The smile, the dead eyes, he wasn't just putting on a brave, right? He wasn't just being cocky to cover up, just his insecurities or what have you. He was gleeful in that moment, and I don't think the real Dick Halloran would have been.
He is kind of a cocky, needing validation. He also doesn't he's stuck. He can't leave the military.
You can tell he's got some hesitancy about what they're doing.
Right. And he's being used and he doesn't like it, but there's nothing he can do about it. So, this is the situation I'm in. So yeah, that was big. But what did you want to talk about with the doors?
Just that it reminded me of The Shining, and I don't know if it was deliberate or if it was, but the Overlook is a hotel, and there are many doors in the hotel.
Oh my God, I didn't even put that together.
Yeah, and it also brought me back to another Stephen King book, Dreamcatchers. In Dreamcatchers, there's a character in there that at one point he is in his own mind. He's trapped in his own mind,
and
he
scares me.
Going into boxes. He envisions it, his memories, and there's a being that's trying to get into his boxes. And all of these beings, as we know, which is again what Becky and I talked about, that we need to read The Dark Tower so that we can really understand the mythos of the Stephen King universe a little bit better. But apparently in the macroverse, there are all of these different types of nasty things that can get through. Dreamcatchers is about one of those. And in that, it is trying to get into this character's, like in a library where we used to have the decimal system and you'd have the library cards.
Yeah.
He envisions his memories that way. And it reminded me of that as well, of this compartmentalizing inside your head of things, and that the way to keep these entities from getting to it is to stand strong and keep those lids on tight, to not let them, like his grandmother said. So I wondered if they drew that parallel deliberately.
Had to. I'm not as well versed in the Stephen King universe as you are, and as a lot of our listeners are. I have my favorites, and that's kind of where I've, that's anyway.
Well, it's been a while. I haven't read, I still read most of the stuff that he releases, most of it. But believe me, most of these books, it's been years since I've actually sat down and read them from cover to cover.
That makes good sense as to why they chose the doors.
Yeah.
That works for me. So then we get the confirmation that the 13 pillars that were buried to trap it in basically Derry, are located under the well house on Newbolt Street. And that was a very cool opening the door the bright light, because you're like, where is it going to take us? And then that slow, like the fog clears, and then you get the close up of the Wells house. I thought that was more great cinematography.
Beautiful, but it has led to more questions for me now. One of the things I wanted to make sure we don't skip over is that the nightmare creatures that were after the native girls.
Oh, yeah.
It was white people. Here, their greatest fear is white people. Same.
Well, I mean, look who showed up and messed up.
Right.
Well, the good thing they had going on.
It wasn't just white people. It was white clergy. And if one of the things that's the most shameful, horrifying thing about our history here in the United States is what white people in general, white government in general, but specifically clergy did to natives. The native schools that were run by clergy were just basically, places that they shunted off native kids to die.
Oh, God.
And the things that they did in the name of Jesus are horrifying. Kimberly Guerrero, one of the reasons I really can't wait for us to get her on to interview her, she was in one of my favorite shows of the last decade, Reservation Dogs. It was only 3 seasons. If anybody out there that's never seen Reservation Dogs, do yourself a favor. It's very short. You can binge it comfortably in a week. And it's a great show, but it's about these kids growing up on a reservation in, I believe it was Oklahoma, in modern times. It's very funny, but it's also very poignant. She played one of the aunties in the show. There is an episode that's a little bit of a departure. It's in the final season. I think about it. I go back and rewatch it all the time. They tell a story about the Deer Lady, and there's a native myth, and there are a lot of tribes that have stories about the Deer Lady, but the Deer Lady is a mythological being that appears to be a beautiful woman, but she is very protective of women and children. So she will appear as this beautiful, seductive woman to lure men who abuse women and children and then murder them horribly. And the Deer Lady story in that season was about a girl that became Deer Lady because she had been one of the children at one of these native schools in the early 1900s and what they do to them. And it's great television. If you don't even want to watch the whole series, I recommend go season 3, go find the Deer Lady episode and watch that. Even though it's really difficult to wrap your head around, you get this sense of just like the strength that these people had to have to survive everything that was done to them.
Yeah. I'll check it out. All right. Well, that brings us to our final thoughts. Is this a yay or a nay? For me, sans a few quirky things that just didn't click, absolutely yay. They delivered on so much other stuff. The origin story with the Stones was a little too Lord of the Rings, it was a little too much, but the way they delivered it and the graphics and the end result with the 13 pillars, I didn't hate it. I thought Taylor Page was amazing. So yeah, this again, not great. I would say maybe 4 clergy birthing gross baby Jesus with the crown of thorns on his head out of 5.
I think we're on the same page with it. It was not my favorite episode. I wonder, after the entire series is over, if I will change my mind about this episode, because it may just be that it was so exposition heavy that once you see it in its entirety, that it's not going to feel that way. But as far as comparing it to every episode that we've seen so far, I know that we needed to know how it was created, where it came from, but it was just, I don't know, that's it. First of all, I don't like Galoo. I don't like the name Galoo.
I don't either. It was a terrible name. That's why I didn't even mention it, because I was like, I just don't even feel like it's worth saying.
You know what? It makes me think of when they finally gave Baby Yoda a name only to make it Grogu.
Yeah, I didn't watch that, so I don't know.
Galoo makes him sound like a friendly whale or something.
Makes me think of Gumby.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of Baloo, the friendly bear from
Jungle Book.
It may have some significance in a native language that I'm not aware of. Doesn't sound very menacing. And just something about how that scene was filmed, it just mostly felt like, other than, those terrifying clergymen with the baby Jesus popping
And
out.
even the moose was terrifying.
Yeah, but most of it just felt like a scene from the Neverending Story or something. Like, it just didn't seem like it goes with the rest of the series. But like you said, there were a lot of, like, what I think captured it for me were the performances of all the actors in the show. Everybody's killing it. Everybody is on top of their game. Like, for instance, one of the things I thought was when Halloran was going into, or Pennywise, because actually I think it was Dick that started to
No,
go
it was
into.
Dick when he, yeah. It wasn't until that when Dick appeared in the vision at the
That I think it
end
became Pennywise.
that Pennywise had gotten into his head.
Yeah, but I started thinking about what it must have been like to be filming that scene with him and the kid that plays Daniel without any music, like, to just be the two actors in there. How funny that, like, I feel like they must have cracked up like 15
I'm
times
sure.
because it was so over the top. But that is what you would be doing if somebody was trying to worm their way into your brain and break into your most treasured memories. It just, I don't know. Again, I think that we needed to know. It moved the plot along. It gave us some information that we did not have before. There were some genuinely scary moments, just other than a few weird little CGI moments that I didn't love. And so I'm going to give it a 4
snail parasited infected eyes out of 5.
or 4 stalk eyeballs out of 5. Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, we got a little bit of feedback for this week. You want to read that for us?
From our What's On Tonight Facebook page, Erica Land. What's up, Erica?
Hey.
Erica Land wrote, "This show has me covering my eyes." No pun intended. You and Marge too. This show has me covering my eyes more than any other show I've ever seen. That scene with the enlarged Marge snail eyes, I couldn't. Don't blame you.
That just made me think of Large Marge from Pee Wee Herman, and
She
her
did have
eyes
large Marge
bugged out.
eyeballs.
Oh my, Erica, genius!
You just brought it all together.
We understand the full meaning of it now.
Erica goes on to say, Mr. Grogan saying he was with a white woman. Do you think he's telling the truth?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
From the start of his alibi not checking out, my thoughts were he had been with another man, but that could just be me. Oh my God, what if him and Dick Halloran? No, surely we'd know.
It wouldn't be Dick, but
yeah, it wouldn't be Dick.
Or would it? I don't know. See so many ways this could play out. I love it.
Yeah, that's true. I am loving the Indigenous representation in this series. Same. Us too. I cannot wait to see these child actors grow up. I feel what they are being put through for this series. Other acting jobs will be a cakewalk. I agree with you.
So true.
Yeah. And they're great. I mean, if they don't get a ton of work out of this, then there isn't justice in the world.
Thank you, Erica, for writing in. We always love hearing from you. And if anyone else would like to leave us some feedback or just say hi, you can email or send us a voice message as an attachment to what's on tonight and the number 2 at gmail.com.
Or you can visit our Facebook page where there will be a post for the next episode, and you can leave feedback in the comments section or send us a message through Facebook Messenger. We can be found on Instagram as well at What's On Tonight Podcast and the number 2. We would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a comment, like, and or share on your podcast listening app of choice.
We love hearing from y'all. Spotify comments, like my face lights up anytime I see one. And we like 5-star reviews. So feel free to.
Yeah, we really like 5-star reviews.
Give us that thumbs up. So how about we deliver Smackdowns with Charlotte and go talk about where else listeners can hear us, podcast recommendations, TV suggestions, or anything else that you want to share. Mandy, what do you got?
Well, I don't have a Dinner for Her podcast coming out in the next week or so. I'm at the drawing board on the next episode for now. And I'm kind of just taking it easy because we're going through the holidays and stuff. So don't really have anything to report on that front this episode. But I do want to talk about a couple of things that have given me joy this week. One is that Ken Burns has just released a new documentary about the Revolutionary War that looks amazing. And he is a really, really phenomenal documentarian. And I think that it's going to be something that most Americans, I think it's going to give us a lot of insight in the founding of our country. And I suggest that, and it's on PBS, and we need to be supporting public television right now, too.
Yeah.
The second thing, I don't know how much you want me to go into this. I just want to say there's been a certain news story that's come out this week that has just given me great joy.
And if you know, you know. Let's leave it at that.
You know, and we'll leave it at that. But I'm just going to say this may have been the funniest week in social media that I have ever experienced in my life. We did it, guys. We did it.
We broke the internet.
Yes. Doesn't make the world a better place necessarily.
But dang it, if it made us laugh.
Yes.
Well, I would like to give a shout out to Kelsey and Jen on the They Did What podcast. Mentioned it before, where they cover documentaries and real life stories of crazy shit that people have done. They covered the Fire Festival, and I was blessed that Kelsey asked me to come on and cover the Netflix docuseries The Perfect Neighbor, which was
infuriating.
Oh my God, it was so hard to watch, but it sparked a phenomenal conversation.
I can't wait to listen to it.
Yeah, I do hope everybody will check it out. You can find them on Spotify under They Did What, just like that, and you'll see the podcast. And you can also find a link to their podcast on podcastica.com. But they're doing a really great job, and I'm proud of Kelsey for branching out. And so please check that out. And TV recommendations. Oh my God. I binged. I'm kind of embarrassed, but I binged in one day. We finally had a day of rest in our house, and I watched all 8 episodes of The Beast in Me, starring Claire Danes and Matthew Rhys on Netflix. They are together again. If you remember, if you ever watched Homeland, they're a phenomenal duo. And this, I did not know what I was getting myself into. But oh my God, it's suspenseful, it's thrilling, it's got like twists and turns, and I was hooked. So I highly recommend The Beast in Me on Netflix.
Hey, I hate to go back, but I just remember I may have mentioned it in the last podcast, but I don't think I did. There's an awesome miniseries out right now called Death by Lightning. It's on Netflix, and it's Michael Shannon playing President James Garfield. And Matthew McFadden is playing the guy that ended up killing, spoiler alert, President James Garfield. And Nick Offerman, the amazing Ron Swanson.
Oh, you had me at Nick Offerman.
He's playing Chester A. Arthur, like a boozy, violent. Oh, God, it's so funny. It's poignant. It's really cool. I learned a lot of really interesting things about the real James Garfield, who was one of our shortest serving presidents because he was assassinated 4 months, I think, into his term. But his wife, like their marriage was very modern. She was an incredibly intelligent, bright woman, and he really respected her. He was a very, very liberal by modern standards socially. Might have been a very, very different place had he lived. I really highly recommend that as well.
Cool. As always, a big thank you to Mark and Pirate Core Entertainment for giving us this platform. Please visit the Pirate Core website. You can find a link to it on our Facebook page, and there you can find our podcast as well as other podcasts like Mandy mentioned, Her Dinner for Her, and Adrenaline Cinema podcast and Panels to Pixels podcast. They are covering so much great stuff, a lot of great content coming out, and you can find those as well as other projects that Mark is working on.
And that's going to wrap up our coverage of episode 4 of Welcome to Derry. We will be back next week to discuss episode 5 titled Neibolt Street,
otherwise known as the Well House.
You're going to have to keep reminding. I'm going to forget that.
I'll never forget it. That was like the biggest aha in all of the Easter eggs and all of the stuff. I'm like, oh, that makes sense now. Well, we want to thank everyone so much for listening. Grief is the last act of love we can give those we loved. Where there is deep grief, there was great love. So to anyone suffering from the loss of a loved one, please hang in there. Every day the grief will get easier to handle, and those moments of remembering that make you sad now will one day make you smile. I'm Becky.
And I am Mandy.
We'll catch you next week when we grab the remote and see what's on tonight. Bye.